video lecture is about PL/SQL, an introduction. Myself Jayanthi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Dr.M.G.R Educational and Research Institute. An introduction. PL stands for Procedural Language and SQL stands for Structured Query Language. So altogether, PL/SQL stands for Procedural Language extension to the Structured Query Language. SQL is a very popular language which is particularly designed for managing data in a relational database management system for both querying and updating of data. PL/SQL is an embedded language. That means PL/SQL can only execute in Oracle database. It was not actually designed to use as a standalone languages like C, C++, Java and so on. In other words, we can say PL/SQL that run only on an Oracle environment. The next is PL/SQL Architecture. In this block diagram, you can see two parts, PL/SQL engine and Oracle database server. So whenever you submit PL/SQL block of data, which is separated as procedural part and SQL part. The procedural part is taken care by procedural statement executor and SQL part is taken care by SQL engine. So here PL/SQL engine is responsible for compiling any PL/SQL code into bytecode and execute the executable code. This PL/ engine can be installed in Oracle database server or any application development tool related to Oracle environment. So once you submit a PL/SQL block to the Oracle database server, the PL/SQL engine collaborates with SQL engine for compilation and execution of the code. This slide is about PL/SQL block structure. PL/SQL is a block structured language whose code is organized into blocks. Generally, programming languages are classified as procedural programming language, functional programming language, scripting programming language, logic programming language, object-oriented programming language, structured language, and so on. Of this kind, PL/SQL is a block structured language. A PL/SQL block consists of three sections: the declaration section, executable section, and an exception handling sections. Of these three sections, executable section is a mandatory part. The other two, declaration and exception handling sections, are optional ones. Any PL/SQL block has a name. We can say it as functions or procedures. This named block is stored in an Oracle database server and can be reused later. A block without a name is called as anonymous block, and these blocks are actually not stored in Oracle database server. However, we can use this kind of unnamed blocks for the testing purpose. Here is the diagrammatic representation of block structure of PL/SQL. As I have mentioned, we have three sections in any PL/SQL: declaration section, execution section, and exception handling section. Here declaration section is a separate one This section is mainly used to declare a variables. Execution section and exception section should be inside begin and end statements. This is like open and close brackets. Declaration section. Any block has a declaration section, but it is an optional one. In this section, we can declare a variables and you can allocate memory here. Second, executable section. It is a mandatory section. It starts with the keyword begin and end. An executable section must have at least one statement, even it is a null statement. Third, exception handling section. A PLSQL block has an exception handling section that starts with the keyword exception. The exception handling section is where you can catch and handle exceptions raised by the code in the executable section. This is a simple example with only an executable section. Any executable section should start with the keyword begin and should end with the keyword end. Here, between begin and end, we have only one statement. This statement is going to print a message "Hello World" on the screen. While executing this part, the named procedure putLine is called in order to display the message on the screen. Here I have the same code, but execution is different. Here I am using SQL Plus, which is a command line interface for executing my code. In order to execute in a command line, first connect to the Oracle database server using your password and username. Second, turn on the server output using set server output on command so that your dbms underscore output dot putLine procedure will display the text on the screen. Without setting it on, you cannot display any statement on the display screen. After entering your code, we need to enter a forward slash, which is needed in order to instruct SQL Plus to execute the block. Once you type the forward slash, SQL Plus will execute the block and display the hello world message on the screen as shown in the illustration. Here I have an example with all three sections: declaration, execution, and exception handling section. In the declaration part, I have declared a variable called vResult, which is of type number. Here I just declared, but I didn't assign any value. Inside an executable part, I am assigning the variable with 1 divided by 0. We know that any number cannot be divided by 0. So the exception occurs here. The handling section, which catches this exception raised in an executable section and displays an error message. You can see SQL inside your putLine procedure, which actually displays an error code, which is nothing but ORA-01476. It is this error code denotes divisor is equal to 0. That's all about an introduction about PL/SQL. We continue in upcoming videos. Thank you.